All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 2017 Smile Source Independent Members Meeting. My name is Dr. Mike Maroon, and I will be your host for the evening. We have a amazing presentation happening this evening here with our group, and our vendor spotlight is going to be LK Dental Studio with Laura Kelly, the president of LK Dental Studio, and around 8:20. She'll be talking for about 20 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A for about 10. And then we're going to have a group discussion on what do you expect from your laboratory relationship, and then how to maximize your Smile Source membership. And then we'll have a little Q&A and wrap up at that time. So I'm looking forward to this. If you have any questions, I ask that you type the questions in for our presenter into the group chat on your screen, and I'll be happy to ask them for you. That'll try and keep things a little bit orderly. If you prefer to ask your question by voice, just send me a chat, and I'll be happy to unmute everybody. Laura Kelly, I have known Laura Kelly for many, many years, and God, I don't even want to say how long I've known her. And she's been amazing. I've known Laura since she was with Microdental, and then she branched off and started her own lab in San Ramon, California, and her lab is excellent. She is a past president of the AACD and an accredited member, lab technician, I believe. Right, Laura? Did I say that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And so I am going to let her tell you all about her fantastic studio, and she will also share some great information with the group. Let me hand over the screen to you, Laura, and we'll let you get going, okay?
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Maroon. That was a very nice introduction. I appreciate it. And it's nice to be with everybody here. And, yeah, we'll get started. Just click on the show my screen, right?
Yes, yep.
There we go. Okay. Perfect. Well, welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. And as Dr. Maroon said, I'm Laura Kelly, happy to be here, president of LK Dental Studio. So I started a small boutique dental lab in 2008. We have 16 people at that lab and a lot of experience, anywhere from 15 to 40 years in ceramic experience. And yeah, just happy to work with so many of you and looking forward to working with more Smile Source members. Since, let's see, it's been about a year and a half, I actually took on a new role with DSG. So I accepted a position as a Vice President of Customer Experience. So I am still really involved with the lab, sort of a point person for Smile Source at LK Dental Studio and throughout the network. But I have been traveling a lot and have had the opportunity to meet with many of the other labs and work with all of their customer experience team members, really raising their level of technical knowledge, and then also making sure that every experience that you have with any lab that we have within the network is going to be something that you will be very pleased with, and we want to just raise the bar and make sure that everybody is getting everything that they want when they work with any one of our laboratories. So tonight, what I thought would be useful to share is just sort of what is customer experience, because I think it really relates to what you do in your practice as well. It relates to us as dental laboratory technicians and managers working with you, but it also relates to the patients that you have. Give you a few digital updates. We have some really great partners that we're able to work with within DSG, so they've shared some information that I thought was pretty interesting, so I thought I would pass that along. Sharing with you some of the trends that we're seeing in dentistry. As you can imagine, a lab sometimes sees more case types in a week than sometimes the cases that will come through your practice in, say, a year. So just showing, sharing what we know some of the other people are doing out there with you. And then a few tips for aesthetic cases. When you have an aesthetic case, a complicated case, something that is, more of a combination case, some of the things that you might want to include. And then also for joining the presentation, a new Smile Source promotion that you can take advantage of. So when I was approached to to take this position, it was presented to me for customer experience. I mean, I knew what customer experience was. I live it. You know, I feel that it's very, very important. I expect it, you know, as a customer myself. But I also did a little bit more research into, you know, finding out a little bit more, you know, what this customer experience is. And basically, for us on the dental lab side, is mapping out every touch point that we have with you as a customer and making sure that we're not just meeting those expectations, but we're exceeding them. When I looked into it a little bit further, I saw that large companies such as Oracle, American Express have done surveys, and they have found that people expect this and they want this, and that the overall customer experience is the single most factor, you know, most important factor for a business's success, which I thought was, you know, incredible, you know, that this was that important, because we do, as, you know, as dentists or, you know, consumers, we have a lot of choices out there. So people know that the experience that you have and customers becoming loyal because they're emotionally attached and they recognize how they feel when they use your business or service. That's really what's important. That's the glue that's going to keep them coming back and actually have them refer people. So it's very important to me. It's very important to our company, and that's what my mission is to make sure that you guys are all happy and that we form those emotional connections on top of really performing for you technically. This next slide was pretty interesting, just getting into a little bit of the updates now for you. It's showing the digital placements. This was brought to me from our friends at Shine, and it's just showing you regionally where the scanners are being implemented throughout the United States. Definitely 3M True Definition and iTero and 3Shape is up and coming as far as the number of placements, and then you've got the plan scans. But you can see, you know, just sort of the concentration regionally, which makes a lot of sense, but thought it was kind of a cool visual to share. And with all of these new digital placements, what we're seeing and what we've been talking about a lot recently at DSG, and we've also now just formed this particular department, if you will. It's a center. It's called the Digital Experience Center. So what we want to make sure is that we own this, and that we are the place that if you decide to get into digital dentistry, that we can help you no matter what system you order, no matter whether you get it through your SmileSource relationship, or if you had, you know, you have a Theric, you have a CareStream, you have whatever digital system you have. We want to make sure that we are the experts and that we staff that properly, so that we can take you from the first appointment scan after you've gone, you know, through your training, all the way through the seat. And if you run into problems along the way, if you need your scan verified because you want to make sure that you've captured all the data before your patient leaves, we want to make sure that we're there for you. So we've got a lot of support with all of our digital partners, meaning, you know, 3M and Shine and the people at iTero. When they heard that we wanted to develop this digital experience center, they were so excited about it, because it's hard for everybody to be everywhere. But we want to staff this appropriately and give you that experience from digital. So it's something that we have right now that's small. We're growing, but we're doing a good job, and we're actively looking for people to enter this particular center with us. And since this just sort of started, but I wanted to just share with you, out of 11 digital placements, we've got 13, or 11 out of 13 have already hit the 30 scan successful mark. So that's something that our partners at 3M actually shared, that when they place a scanner in an office, they use 30 scans as the benchmark to know that dentist is fully integrated and is scanning, and it's working out really well. So we're using the same benchmark too. So it's just getting going, and we're looking for 100%. So we're looking to make sure that everybody that invests your time and your money and your effort in digital is going to get that experience and have that fully integrated into the practice. This was interesting too, just to share with you, out of all of the digital customers that we work with at DSG, 20% of them are iTero users, and 80% are the 3M True Def. And we are actually getting more triage customers as well. We're Ferret Connect. We can accept all digital systems, but these are the two that we've tracked for this. And I thought this was interesting too, that the Smile Source placement. So since we've developed our relationship with you, and we are offering digital support, is we've got 100 out of all of your dentists, 120 have scanners, and 55% of those so far have hit the 30+ scan mark. So I wanted to kind of share with you what you guys are doing too. So a few other things of what's happening out there. Once again, just reaching out and getting some statistics from our partners, which I thought this was pretty interesting. You may know this, but I mean, it's not hard to tell because you work in your practices, you feel it, you know what's happening. But I thought it was interesting that from the 90s to 2005, basically, you know, there was a 4% annual increase of annual spend from patients. So, you know, basically, if you did nothing, if you didn't market, you kept your patient base as it was, you were going to, you know, have an increase of 4% every year. But when we hit 2008 and then to 2011, you know, they tracked the patient spending actually declined, which is no shock for anybody. But according to the ADA, that this patient spend decline is projected to be flat for about the next 10 years. So if you combine that with, you know, what's happening with PPOs, which once again, this is your world. You know what's going on. It's all of our world as far as the, you know, the lower reimbursements, and then, you know, we're seeing that the patient spend maybe isn't going up, you know, dramatically, but the patient visits, you know, are the same. That means that a lot of dentists that we're working with and seeing and talking to are incorporating different revenues of stream to their practice. So we're seeing people take more sleep courses, placing more implants, incorporating other procedures and taking courses, whether it's perio, even doing some of their own endo. So they're keeping in-house as many procedures as they can, and then referring out the more complicated procedures to the specialist. But this is something that is a trend that we're definitely hearing and talking to our clients about. This next slide is just showing you sort of the CAD/CAM device market breakdown. You know, what was happening in 2015, and then what's projected. I think it's to 2022. My slides cut off a little bit. It's either 21 or 22. But basically, you know, it's all relatively the same, but we're not seeing a lot of doctors investing into chairside mills as much as we were in the beginning. That's actually projected to decline a little bit. Where we're seeing a little bit of a bump is in the intraoral scanner market. And that's the area that I know the manufacturers are spending a lot of time in really, you know, perfecting and working with the intraoral scanners. And, you know, there's a lot of milling centers, and there's a lot of places that that can mill. But the intraoral scanner market, I think, is where you're going to see a little bit of a more growth from this data that's shared. Also, too, I thought this was interesting to share is just the GPs placing implants. You know, what's happened from 2011 until 2021. You know, we're seeing the percentage of implants being placed by the GPs is increasing. So in 2011, you had about 16.7, and that's projected to go to almost 31%. The percentage of GPs placing 30 or more implants a year is the greatest area of growth that you see. From 2011, it was at 4.4, and it's projected to go to 18%. So I think this is you know, telling us a lot. You can tell from the courses that you're attending and all of the continuing education and the amount of implants you're placing yourselves, that this is something that the dentist is doing to help to you know, keep those patients in your practice. I think it's really convenient for the patient too to be able to come to you and have those implants placed. So that was very interesting to me. And just once again, just another graph just supporting the growth from 2014 to 2021, you know, 35% of GPs, you know, placing implants. It's growing. Another area that I touched on was sleep appliances. This is just a chairside guide that we have, that if you'd like to get one of these, you can email me or contact one of our labs and ask for this. It's pretty nice. It shows you the design features. It has a selection guide, and It's laminated, and so you can have it in the op, but it's a nice tool to maybe decide if you need to, you know, what type of sleep appliance you think may be appropriate for the patient. In addition to sleep, something that's come out new from EMACS is this, you'll probably be seeing it if you haven't seen it in some of the publications already, is the EMACS 500 campaign. And this is showing that they, you know, Ivoclar is pretty conservative in coming out with their data. I think they had said that, I think the flexural strength was 360 when they first launched EMACS. Now that they have over 1 million restorations out there, they're able to, and they've done some studies, they're able to say that you've got it at 500. And in addition to that, I'll show you just a new prep guideline. They're actually reduced the amount of preparation you need to take off of the Q structure to actually have more, you know, EMACS units fabricated for you. But the new development that they've just recently launched is the EMACS multi unit, or what do we call this? An ingot. And it's very aesthetic. It's monolithic, but it has the transition from gingival to incisal already built into the ingot. So the beauty of this is that we can press restorations, and if you do not want the cutback layer technique because you're trying to maintain strength in a Bruxer type situation, but you want something aesthetic and you don't want all surface glaze and stain, you can actually, we can press the restorations out of this ingot, which is really beautiful. And right now it has the shades A1 through A35, your B1 and B2, and then the C1 and C2, and then the BL, you know, the bleach shade guide, the BL2 and the D2, and they will be coming out with more of the ingots. But I wanted to let you guys know that this is something that we can do for you. We're actually going to be publishing an article soon with Dr. Chris Pescatore, and it'll show one of the multi ingot cases. So keep your eyes out for that. This I thought was a pretty nice chart, just getting a little bit more familiar with the ingots. I hear some dentists tell me, oh, you know, I don't like EMACS, it's too gray or it's too opaque, but they really have a lot of ingot selections in their family, and what it really boils down to for the technician working with you is choosing the right ingot. So they have ingots that have more opacity, more blocking out capability, and then they have the transition of ingots from the light, medium, and the high translucency, and now the multi ingots. So I really commend Ivoclar into really trying to give us enough tools to really get the end result the way that you need it. And by communicating the prep shade really well and what the final result is, the lab can really choose the ingot for you that's the best. If you haven't had any cases that have been fabricated in the MT ingot yet, that's a really nice ingot, and you can talk to your technician about that, and they'll know what you're talking about now with ingots. And once again, I wanted to just show you the visual of this slide, just showing the reduced preparation guidelines for the EMACS, moving down from 1.5 millimeter reduction to a millimeter. So just touching on what to include with some of your aesthetic cases. Obviously clear, you know, full arch impressions, a bite, photos with the shade guide in place and also a stump shade, face bow or stick bite, tree-out models, and then the model of the temps or a diagnostic wax up to follow for the technician. If you've made any adjustments to your temporaries, please take a new impression of that. That will help us. And then concise instructions. If you'd like to get into material discussion, we see a lot of prescriptions come in that say, please give me a call. You know, I'd like to discuss what materials might work best in this situation. And that's absolutely something that we enjoy, getting into dialogue with you and learning a little bit more about what your end result is with the case. Just going to show you a few real life cases that come in and sort of the photo series that we get. This is a great information tool, the series of these photos to show us when we're going to be making a diagnostic wax up for you. All of these shots, you know, we don't, a lot of times we don't get to see the patient's full face. And if you think about our world, we're dealing with models, you know, so much. but seeing this patient's face and these shots that are included here along with the stick bite, these are all very useful to show us what we can do in the diagnostic wax-up to improve upon the look for this patient and the function. You know, maybe widening the buccal corridor, if we're going to be adding length, balancing out the teeth, making 8 and 9 more of a mirror image of each other, and then the stick bite being included to make sure that this isn't canted when we make the wax up or the final restorations for you. So this is a very useful photo series I wanted to share. And then when you're at the prep appointment, you know, a lot of times, you know this, this is your world, is that the preps are not the same color. And it's okay to send a photo that has several different stump shades up there just to show us the different gradation. We can customize stumps, and we can go ahead and plan for that. So we make sure that in those areas where the prep is darker, you don't get shine through and you don't get the bleed through, because our goal is to be able to make that restoration and have nothing come through. So if you've got, you know, anything underneath, if you've got posts, if you've got buildups, if you've got anything that is underneath the tooth structure, please send that to the technician, because this is very helpful for us making the cases for you. The reason that it's really useful is what we will do is after we make the final restorations, they're glazed, they're hand polished, we actually make the stump shades and we place these restorations on the stump shades with just water, so we can duplicate, so you know, more of a clear cement. And this way we can tell whether or not, when we hold it up to your final shade, whether it's an 010, 020, whatever this final shade is that you've requested, we can verify that we're meeting our goal for you, and that is to have you be able to put this in and not have shine through. You know, sometimes you might have to bump it up a little bit with a higher value cement or a more opaque cement, but this gives us a good indication that we are going to meet those results for you if you can communicate the stump shades to us. And then just another example of photos at the temp appointment. You know, temporaries are great for test driving, making sure that wherever we think we're going together as your partner in helping you design this case, is that's meeting the patient's expectations. So, you know, giving us an idea if you'd like a gradation in shade, if you'd like to go from the 040 and blend out to an 010, this would be a very helpful shot showing us. Measuring the overjet also is useful. And then the length of the central, because everything really falls from the length of the central. So these 3 photos that we received from one of our doctors was very helpful as well. Just a couple of more slides showing you real-life photos that come in, and sort of what's useful about this photo from a laboratory technician standpoint, and then maybe what we like about it, and then what we could see, you know, that could be improved possibly. So this is a really, you know, well-taken photo. We can see the shade tab is A1. Sometimes you wouldn't believe how many times, you know, the thumb gets over the A1, and that's not an issue other than it delays time, right? So we have to call you and sort of figure out what that is. But the other part of this is it's in the same plane as number 9, and it's actually incisal edge to incisal edge, which is a great shot. This patient keeping, you know, number 9, we're going to be matching that. Sort of another shot that would have been great to include is just taking that shade tab, flipping it around, and placing it. Since this patient has a healing cap, you could actually place that shade guide right next to number 9, and then we could see the gradation in incisal. You can tell by looking at this crown that's a little bit higher in value, a little bit more opaque. The incisal blending is a little bit different, and having it side by side would give us a really good comparison to that shade guide A1. So that's something that an additional shot that could have been sent to. This next one I really like too, because it really shows the detail of the white, you know, hypocalcification characterizations. It shows the placement of the characterizations very well. I think the doctor did a really good job choosing the 2M2. It is the correct hue, but the chroma, the intensity of that color, there's more chroma replacing one of these bicuspids here. So maybe a 2M3 knowing shade guides really well, I kind of try to memorize shade guides, or maybe I don't try, it just happens. But it looks like it might be closer to maybe an A3. There's some more warmth in the middle 1/3 of that tooth. But this gives the technician a lot of information to be able to do correct placement of the characterizations, and also determine that we needed to add a little bit more warmth to those final restorations to have that blend in. Another helpful hint I wanted to pass along was the importance of surface sheen and texture when having shades meet. What I've noticed taking a lot of custom shades, we do custom shades complimentary to the lab, and I've even done them via Skype and different things with patients and doctors outside of our area. But the surface sheen, the amount of glaze and the texture really makes a big difference as far as if that crown is going to blend into the mouth. So you can nail the shade 100%, but if the texture isn't there the way that the adjacent tooth is that you're trying to match, and the gloss, maybe the glaze is too high, it's just not going to look right. So really communicating with photos and the, like low sheen, satin sheen, high sheen are terms that we understand clearly. Light texture, medium, and heavy. Some doctors have asked me, well, how do I know my light texture, your light texture is going to be the same? And one thing that we've done for some of our clients upon request, just complimentary, is we all have crowns at the lab that didn't pass quality control for some reason, saw a fracture, didn't like it, whatever it is. And so we have this little drawer, we call it the crown graveyard. And we can pull some crowns out of there and actually just sort of do some little samples of a light, medium, and a heavy texture for you. So if that's something that you would like, and we can send that to you so that you can, see what that looks like and be able to communicate that, I would ask your lab to do that. And then also, I have found even showing cases when patients come in, I have some demonstration models that will show heavy texture and it'll show light texture or none, and really most of the time they do choose something that has a little bit more texture to it. If they're doing, like, say, 8 upper, 10 upper units, they do want a little bit of a natural look, and I think it really shows that we're paying attention to the details that are going to make their teeth look beautiful and natural, and they'll be happy with that investment. This next shot I just wanted to show you is, once again, another real-life case that I can absolutely pick apart, but what I liked about it and where I think we could have improved. So this doctor took some really great photo series. It was a young patient who had broken that number 9 right off in half. The patient was located in Maine. The office was in Maine, and obviously we're in California, but he did not want to prep. He wanted to, the whole surface of the tooth. So basically, he just made a little finish line right there where you see where it broke off, and we built this crown with sort of a contact lens effect, it's called. So you basically have like a clear margin there, so there was no line of demarcation. So what I like about the case is that I think that blends in really, really nice. It was a conservative prep, a really good service for this particular patient. Where I think we missed it, and we could have done a little bit better, is I'm noticing the surface anatomy did not mimic number 8 exactly. And I probably would kick out that distal corner of number 9 a little bit more, make it a little bit fuller. Overall, I think the shade is really just almost there, like 99% there, so close. Maybe bump it up a little bit with a higher value cement, would have gotten it there just a little closer. I think the characterizations are nice, but overall, I think it was a pretty good result for a single unit central, particularly working at that distance. Just another real-life case that I liked, not absolutely perfect, but really nice. And, some tissue recontouring, really paying attention and looking what's going to enhance this patient's smile. EMAX veneers, I believe these are 8 restorations, and nice and sizable blending, a very natural sort of surface texture and sheen, not heavy on the surface texture, but that's what they wanted. And one of the other things at LK that we did starting the lab, and I know it's just really important for practices to marketing, is just different relationships that you can build. We were fortunate enough to work as one of the labs with the Mrs. Globe pageant series, and Jennifer, who is Mrs. Northwest, in doing her case, and we did these cases complimentary, we were able to actually receive all of the photos and all the rights to use them for all of our marketing, and we've gotten just a lot of mileage out of this that would have been completely out of our scope to invest in and purchase. Plus, it's nice being able to be involved in a fundraiser for domestic violence. It was a fashion show, and also restore the smiles of these particular models, and be able to use this in all of our promotional materials has been really great for the lab too. So I would suggest, if you've got situations like this and you'd like to do it for your practice, talk to us about how we can help you with that, because there is some win-win situations we can create with patients that might show up that would be, that this would be good for promotional. And then, just here at the end, I wanted to let you know that we have a promo running right now, just sort of out there, with it's $10 off a comfort splint. But I wanted to let you guys know, for any of the Smile Source members, that if you would like a complimentary splint with any of your next cases that you send us, even if it's just a posterior, single unit molar, we like to protect that natural dentition. And if you're doing a cosmetic case and you'd like a complimentary splint, all you need to do is write splint 2017 on your next RX, and we'll go ahead and make one for you complimentary. And well, last but not least, I just wanted to show you a heat map of where all of the labs within DSG are located, so that you know that you have different choices. We have labs that are exclusively removable, and they've been doing removable for 20 and 30 years, and they're really good at it. We've got implants. We've got our digital implant customer experience center. We've got GPS down in Florida, as you know. LK Dental Studio is the aesthetic lab in California. But we've got some really great labs throughout the network that may be close to you on the local lab side that can help you. So if there's anything that I can ever do, one of my one of the benefits of me having this new role is I've been able to go into these labs and do different workshops and really get to know them. And so if there's anything that I can do to help you, get set up with a lab that you would like to work with, or even several labs, just because it makes more sense to you within our network, please just reach out, contact me. There's my email, my cell phone number. I will take calls on the weekends. In the evening, I'm really into what we're doing here and want to make sure that you feel supported and you get all of your value, out of working with us at DSD and at LK Dental Studio and at any of the labs. So I think that's all I have, Dr. Maroon.
Wow, Laura, you were worried about, I can't believe we talked earlier and you were worried about whether you were going to have great information or not. That was amazing. Oh my God. That was insane. So much information in such a short amount of time. I actually, you could have kept talking for like another 30 minutes, and I think everybody would have been happy. There are a few questions, and so let me start with one of the questions that we got online here is how can you control the multi-shade ingot effect in a real restoration? It seems that the margin thickness, where you sprue, the angle of the restoration, and the investment all would affect what color goes where. Can you talk about that a little?
I sure can. And whoever asked that question, I think has a lab technician background, because that's actually a really good question. And there is a different spruing technique, because you have to make sure that the placement, when you place the sprue, so there's a whole kit that comes with this. So it depends upon which technique you're using. If you're scanning and you're milling the wax, then you do that digitally, and we can do that on a 3 shape, and we can nest all of them, and we can see, where the puck is, and then you can really rotate and position all of the designs within the puck to make sure that the incisal is on the incisal, area, the gingival is on the gingival. So that's how we do it digitally. When we do it, the lost wax press technique, it's a similar theory. It's just different in how you're actually screwing it. So there's there's a different way that you have to angle them different. You have to make sure that the ingot is placed properly and that your wax up is screwed properly so that you actually get those, you get the benefit basically of using those ingots. We're not able to sort of, I would say in your normal ingot situation, you can really, in your rings, and this is actually kind of a cool presentation. If you ever want anything in the future, we can take some lab shots and show you guys because it's really interesting. But when you're just pressing something out of an MT-B1 or an LT-A1, whatever, you can just put your ingots in there and not worry about it. But with the multi-ingot, you have to just, it's all really about the placement. One other tool that Ivoclar just launched at the IDS is actually an app for the laboratory technicians to use. If you give us the prep shade, we enter that, and then the amount of reduction, if it's going to be a veneer or full crown, and then the end result, the final shade that you requested, and it comes up with this formula. So that just got launched. We're going to take a look at that and see how that compares to just our experience, with working with the different ingots. So that was a great question, and that's how that's addressed. Hopefully I answered that.
Okay, and this is just a follow-up question. It's probably just a simple yes or no. Is there any extra charge for the multi-shade ingot?
No.
Okay.
It's more expensive for us, but we are not charging more for that.
Okay. Another question.
If we do, we'll charge the other people, but not the Smile Source doctors. How's
awesome.
that?
That's what we love to hear.
Okay.
another question is, do you personally, as a lab, have any preference for the digital units that you work with, or are they all the same from your perspective as well?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I think it depends on what you want to utilize it for. With the 3M, you need the powder, and so maybe if you're wanting to scan implants, that you might want to look at the iTero or the Trios. And it's kind of just, it's the same as impression material. There's not one impression material out there that works for everybody. That's why they have so many different types. So I would say if I was a dentist and I was looking at getting into looking at the scanners, I would just try them out and see what works well in my hands and what integrates with my system the best and what it is that I really want to utilize my my scanner for. But it's just we see the scans coming through, and it's just the quality of the images are really well done if you go through the training program, do everything that they'd like you to do, and the data is really good that we're seeing that's coming through from the scans across the board.
Okay, so just kind of a follow-up question to that. Do you envision that we will ultimately see the end of impression material as we know it, and you'll end up with more scans than impressions?
I don't. And here's why. And talking with a lot of doctors that have digital, you always have the new adopters, right? Everybody loves this stuff and they just jump in right away. But even the trainers that I speak with at 3M and some of the other companies, they tell doctors, do not throw out your polyvinyl or your polyether, whatever it is you're using, because you're going to need it. Not every patient is a candidate for a scan. If you've got somebody who has, tissues compromised, you can't retract, you cannot get a dry environment. Scans do not like anything shiny, so everything has to be very, very dry, and there's just some situations where that's just not going to work. So I don't think that, I don't know how far down the road, but I don't see it anytime soon, and I haven't heard anybody really, if the trainers are telling you not to throw it away, that's a good indicator as well.
Okay, so you one of the things that you said was that you work with all digital systems. How does that work from your perspective? Like, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how does that work from, do you get them from a central location, or how does somebody work? Like, if we have a specific camera that we use, a digital camera, how does that work with you?
Are you talking about sending photos, or
yeah,
you're talking about like a
scan? A digital impression, basically.
Oh, okay. So we have, at the lab, we have all of the different sort of, I would call it, I guess, the avenue. So you can upload onto the website, depending if you're a CEREC, connect. There's different procedures. We have to, send you an invite, accept. It just depends upon which system it is. There's a little bit of a different way to do it. This is one of the reasons that we're consolidating all of this into the digital customer experience area, and we really want to simplify it so that there are not so many different ways. We want to act as the portal for that. That area is in development right now, but until we get that sort of like up and running and launched, every single system just has a procedure that they want you to follow, so that we set you up as a client, sending those files to us. So you just need to contact the lab, let them know, I have this system, I'd like to start working with you, and then we can just send you an email or walk you through whatever it is that we need to do to get you set up.
Okay. Next question is, one of the biggest concerns for doctors, and I'm sure you know this, is turnaround time. What is the turnaround time for digital dentistry? Is it faster than impressions, or, and can you talk a little bit about turnaround time and why turnaround time, sometimes you have a difficult time as a lab to turn things around quickly?
If I mean, no, that's another. It is. It's like, that's huge. Like, what, I'd be curious to know what would be the ideal, turnaround time.
I think it would.
From a dentist perspective.
It would be 1 day, Laura, or maybe the same day. But I know it's not really.
How about like 10 minutes? Like 10 minutes, right? Yeah. And do you think it's case dependent? Do you think you're larger cases versus single cases, or would you expect the same?
For me personally, I think it would be case dependent, and I think that most people would agree on that. I think single units, I think that turnaround time for single or double units or something like that, I mean, I think that could be quicker, but obviously larger cases or multi-specialty cases, those are things that you expect to take a little bit longer time. But again, I'd like to hear from your perspective what you consider acceptable turnaround time is. Yeah,
I mean, standard, like, and I'm including shipping, okay, or delivery, depending upon what, where you're sending your case.
I think a lot of docs get confused, like when the lab says, like, oh, we have 10-day turnaround time. They think it's 10 days from, like, okay, I prep today, and then I should have it back in 10 days. No, it doesn't work that way. It's 10 days from when the lab receives the case, basically, to when it gets
correct.
Yeah. So I think a lot of doctors are misunderstanding that portion of it. They just think it's a 10-day turnaround time. So again, that's why I want you to explain it from a laboratory perspective, like what actually goes into when you get a case, whether it's a mail case of an impression or a digital case, is there a different turnaround time?
Well, and I'm glad that this came up, because it's getting better, okay, on the digital side. I can tell you it is getting better. And it will only get better with the digital customer experience center that we're creating. That is one of the biggest areas for improvement that I think that anybody can make. So, when the file comes over, you still have to have a digital model made. So there's margin marking, and you need to take a look at that. So it depends on the lab you're using too, and the shifts that they have, because. And when you send that digital file over, it may not get worked on until, the next day. Sometimes if a doctor has, 3 different shifts going on, if a lab has 3 different shifts, then something can happen, a little bit sooner. So I think it is lab specific when it comes to that. We have a digital model made, so, it depends on where the digital models are getting made. But there really shouldn't be right now that much difference between digital and a traditional impression for turnaround time, but we're trying to improve that on the digital side. I would say 7 to 10 day turnaround time is what should be happening. If you have a case, if I were a dentist and I had a case that I needed a quick turnaround time on and I wanted a commitment, I would make a phone call and I would say, look, I'm sending this case to you tomorrow. I would like it back on this day. Can you make sure that occurs and get a commitment to make that happen? And that
goes back to your one of your first slides about overall customer experience, and working with you, customers become loyal because they are emotionally attached and remember how they feel when doing business with you. So if you do something like
Absolutely.
that, that becomes part of their customer experience.
It does, and that's why we're trying to really, like with SmileSource, we're really assigning basically internal custom, like concierges for you that will handle all of those type of requests and be able to really jump through the hoops when you really need it, because sometimes you really do. Patients really are leaving, out of town, and there's some things that you need to do for whatever reason it is. So it is possible, and asking for special circumstances should be something that you do on when you need to. But I would say 7 to 10 days on a typical case, and then maybe just a little bit longer, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 14 days on a really complicated case. Sometimes what happens with implant cases, I've noticed that sometimes the parts are on back order. Trying to get a hold of you, and find out not you, Dr. Maroon, because you're just so responsive.
Yeah.
We just call you on your cell, yeah. But is getting hold and getting a returned phone call. That's huge. I teach our teams that when they have to make multiple phone calls to get shades or information or a question, at some point we have to let the staff know that the due date may be jeopardized if we can't get a hold of the doctor. And let the lab know in the beginning how you like to be communicated with. We have a lot of people that just say, send us a text. That's the way I'm going to respond to you quickest. If you have a question, if you communicate with me this way. So we just really need to get on the same page and figure out the way that we can get the information, we can get questions answered. And then if you have special circumstances, I would just ask, because it can be done. We've turned diagnostic wax-ups around in a day because we knew, and oh my gosh, I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying that, the lab's going to kill me, but because you need to close that case, or that patient is making a decision, and you want to get back to them real quick. So we will do everything that we can to make sure that we accommodate those requests.
Okay. I know I'm asking you a lot of questions, but there's a lot of good stuff coming through. There's another question that says they're presently working with DSG for sleep appliances. If I go the digital route, how is the bite registration handled? In the past, I've used a George gauge bite for my appliances. What is the process for a digital realm?
You know what? That's an excellent question. I have to be really honest and let you know that a sleep appliance and the criteria for that is not my area of expertise, but I can dial you in, whoever that is. If you want to send me an email to lkelly@dentalservices.net, I will put you in touch with our department lead of that department, and they can let you know.
Okay, great. Thank you for being honest about that. Also, one of the things, we put a lot of pressure on the labs as dentists to give us the cases back in a timely manner, and we want it all to fit, and we want perfect contacts and excellent occlusion and everything else. What happens in the lab, like if you don't get things that you need? Like, say for example, even though you get a digital impression, the impression may not necessarily be, or the prep may not necessarily be the ideal prep. How do you go about communicating effectively with your clients or doctors to get you the correct information that you need to give a successful case back?
Well, and you're right. I mean, sometimes, it's not a perfect world, and I've been chairside enough to know that it's not easy either. I mean, you guys have a live, wiggly, wet, all kinds of complaint, all kinds of stuff happens chairside. So I get how difficult it can be at times. When we see something at the lab, our role is to take a look at that, get the model work done, or take a look at the image, whatever it is, have our digital model made. And then if we cannot make something that meet your expectations, there's not enough room, there's just something that needs to occur differently, it's our responsibility to call you and let you know, look, we know this is where you're headed, we know that this is the end result that you and the patient expect, and this is where we're going to run into a problem. This is where our area of difficulty is going to be. What would you like to do? It's about making a decision. Do you not want to call back the patient in and either take off a little bit more room or take a new impression? Is that, what is the best decision? Sometimes people say, go ahead and proceed and do the best that you can. I cannot get that patient back in for these particular reasons. And sometimes they say, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Could you, send me a photo of that so I can take a look at it, or make a reduction coping, or, reduce and mark the prep. Thank you for letting me know. But I think that we own and it's our responsibility to notice those things and call you and ask you what you would like to do, and show you pictures if that's what it is that will, kind of give you an idea of what we're dealing with. To just go ahead and make something and not communicate is not, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. So that's our responsibility, and it's just teamwork, and it's your decision.
Yeah, it's never
what you'd like to do.
It's never a comfortable conversation. I understand that because you want to, you don't want to jeopardize the relationship, but at the same time, I'm sure that doctors expect, regardless of whether the relationship is jeopardized or not, doctors are expecting you to provide them with a great restoration. And if the information, the impression is not exactly what you can do, you're compromised as well. So I understand.
Yeah, well, and let me ask you, because this is something that this is in my area because it is customer experience, and I'm training my team to say things a certain way. And if I were calling you and I said to you, Dr. Moon, look, we've got this case for patient, Sue Smith, and it's number 9, and it's out as the prep is in the same facial plane as number 8. And so if I make this crown for you, it's actually going to be, out a little bit further. And I would love to bring it in, but I'm afraid with the color of the prep, we're going to get shine through. The impression looks really good. We just need a little bit more room. I don't think that type of communication is offensive or would harm the relationship. I would think it would strengthen it. If we had a bad impression from a doctor, I would never want somebody from our lab calling and saying, well, this impression is bad. I mean, that would be, I would say, hey, look, I think we can always find something about a case to communicate well about, give a compliment on what was done well with the case, and then actually say what we would need to make the case better. If there's a hole on the margin, or something that's going to jeopardize the case.
Or personally, I would rather have you say, I'm having a hard time reading the margins. One of the things that I do personally, and I know that you may have seen this in some of the cases you've worked with me on, is if I'm doing a particularly big case, anything more than 3 units, I typically take either 2 impressions or whatever, and so that there's a backup, so I don't have to take off the temporaries. I mean, that's just a little trick.
That's a
little trick I learned many years ago to save myself a lot of aggravation.
Yeah, you're right there anyway. That's a great tool that you use to, like a safety belt, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. I've had some, in the past, nobody likes having somebody come back in and you're taking off 6 units of temporaries to re-impress something. So yeah, it's never good. But I personally, I would prefer the lab to be honest with me. If my impressions are not that good, but that's me. I mean, I would rather have you call me and say that I'm having a hard time reading the margins. Is there a way? It's a particularly difficult patient. Do you think this is the best you can do in this case, or can you get the patient back in and refine this a little further? As far as the case that you just described, where the facial plane is about the same, in that case, I'd ask you to do a reduction coping, and then I make that reduction. Talking about this real quick, do your labs do any type of personal preferences for each doctor? I mean, is that something that you guys normally do?
You know what we do, and that's part of this new, well, I've actually named it now. It's called the new client onboarding process. It's when we get somebody that's new or existing and we don't have that information as we need to have that information. Sometimes, honestly, it's very difficult to get the doctor to spend the time with you to go over preferences, because I want to hear what you like and I want to hear what you don't like. What drives you crazy about labs is just as important to hear as far as what it is that your preferences are. So we do have preferences. We have the cards. We try really hard to get them filled out either over the phone or via email, send them with cases sometimes. You know, it's not, they're just not 100% completed. So it is very helpful, you know, if we can get all of that information and we can get that right away, and those get entered into the system. So all of the DSG labs are on the same system internally, so we can enter your preferences, and they will pop up, and we will be able to see your preferences on every single case. Whatever you write on the prescription is going to supersede the preferences, your general preferences, because you know, that could be particular to that patient. But it's a really good way for us to get to know you, what your likes and dislikes are. You know, just even if you're doing PFM, you know, you like semi, whatever it is, some things are constant. But yes, we do have those.
Okay. And then another follow-up to that is, I notice when I get stuff back from DSG or your lab that there are surveys for the actual restoration that is being sent to my office. Do you, so how many people actually fill out those surveys and send them back, and are those helpful to you?
Yes, they are helpful, and we love it when you write us notes and smiley faces, or you check off the box that says call me. They are helpful. They are looked at. We have morning huddles weekly with the team, so when we get these back, we sit down, and when we get great compliments, we pull the old paperwork and we will actually compliment the technicians and make a big deal of it, you know, because we don't get the patients. You know, no news is good news for a lab sometimes. So we have to find ways to celebrate, whether it's if you send us pictures of a happy you know, patient, or your post-op photos. Those go up on the wall a lot so that we can celebrate success with you. I would say we're lucky if we get, I would say 20% back. But some doctors tell us that they would prefer to call us, or they would prefer to email or send a text or something to communicate, you know, basically their review on that case. So I think more people find different avenues to let us know, and not necessarily always with the surveys that go out with each one of the cases. But if you do send those back, they are collected, reviewed by the manager, and then also with the technicians during our huddles.
So let's say I had a particular case, and like the contacts were tight and the occlusion was high, and I wrote that up on the slip and I sent it back to you. What would happen on your end if you got that?
We would look at it, and we would actually put a note in your preferences to try something different on your cases, meaning all of the contacts, say, for instance, should, we have our working model, and then we have our solid model. So the solid model, the contacts need to we believe that they're going to sit on the solid like they would in the mouth. If you're experiencing to when they're still tight on the solid, then we lighten it up a little bit, right? So we try something to see if the reviews and the comments start coming up back better, and then that ends up being the way that you want them to fit passively, say on a solid model. So it is something that if there's anything that it's really becoming chronic, and you're noticing, gosh, they're always tight. I would go, if I were a dentist, knowing what I know, I would go to my solid model and I would see how they fit on the solid, and I would write a note, call me, I need to discuss this, or we need to make a change. I need them lightened up, or I need them heavier, or more flat and broad, in general, whatever it is, and we'll make that adjustment in your preferences. Great.
One final question. I know you've been awesome. I mean, we've actually run way over time, but I think it's been great. You talked about an increase in the amount of implants being placed by GPs, and you said that a lot of people are starting to scan implant impressions. Do you have any recommendations for people who want to do something like that?
Recommendations as far as the system, or
like what do you when you get a digital scan for an implant, like are you looking is there any special thing that a doctor has to do to take a scan of an implant?
Right. It's going to depend on the system and their scan bodies, and it's going to depend upon which system that you're familiar with. Like if you're working with Nobel or you're working with Astra, the local reps are a really good resource to come into your office and actually show you the procedure and what it is that you would need to do. And the Trios system is a very that's the one in regards to doing implants right now that we're seeing the most people getting involved in to do implants.
Great. And then just one final thing that I picked up on that I was hoping that you may say yes to. You talked about the DSG.
How about I just say yes now, and then you can go ahead and tell me what you want.
No, it's the DSG chairside guide. Can you do you have that in a PDF form that you could send to me, and I can just distribute it with the recording of this webinar?
Yes, absolutely. Are you talking about the sleep?
Yeah, like the chairside guide.
I'll go ahead and
show about all the different.
I have it's actually two-sided, so I just showed the front side, and I will send you the PDF that has both sides too.
Great, that'd be awesome.
That was easy. You don't have another one?
No, that's it. Come on, I'm not a tough guy. Come on, you know me.
I know. Also, I just want to do a Smile Source plug for if there's anybody that is going to the AACD next week. We are going to be there. LK Dental Studio has a booth, 439. Trevor's going to have some little, cards made. I guess there's going to be a Smile Source little cocktail gathering. I guess Trevor's going to, buy shots at the bar or something like that. I believe that's on Thursday night. So if anybody's there, if you know anybody's there, if you want to come by or text me, I can just tell you which bar it is at the Venetian. At this point, I don't know exactly which one it's going to be. I know that Dr. Les Latner is organizing this, but we would just love to get together, with all of you guys and say hi and have some good times there if you're there. And if not, I will be in Nashville, so I look forward to seeing everyone there.
Great. Laura, I thank you for your time. I appreciate you being on the call for an hour. That was more than generous of you, and the information was fabulous. I think people are going to get a lot out of it. I know personally what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to make all of my chairside assistants watch this video recording, because the information that you shared about photography and communication with the lab was exceptional. And I think if everybody just paid attention to that alone, they would get excellent results back. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who's been on the call. I appreciate that all of you folks who have been on the call. If you missed any portion of this, you can. I will be sharing the information, the recording, with all of you, and I look forward to seeing you all on our next monthly conference call, and where we will talk about the rest of the stuff that we missed today. But our next call will be Tuesday, May 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.